At Belle Reve Penitentiary, Floyd Lawton, the notorious hitman known as Deadshot, is being led down the corridor to his execution chamber. Even with death breathing down his neck, he mocks the priest, offering him last rites like he's being asked to fill out a survey before clocking out permanently. However, when he enters the chamber, he finds a mysterious man who hands the warden an official letter. After reviewing the letter's context, the warden immediately halts the execution and orders Lawton to be released, surprising both him and the other present guard. Deadshot then gets put into the custody of the strange man, who identifies himself as Colonel Rick Flagg. On the drive away from Belle Reve, Deadshot attempts to escape, but Flagg warns him that it wouldn't be a wise thing to do. Apparently, an explosive was implanted while he was busy arguing with a stake about who deserved to die first, and will detonate if he disobeys or attempts anything sus, so he's forced to stay. Flagg then explains that Deadshot has been selected to assist in a top-secret government operation under the direct oversight of Project Cadmus. Deadshot automatically assumes that he's going to get his hand bloody, but Flagg tells him that it's way more complicated than that. He has to infiltrate the Justice League headquarters. They soon arrive at a fortified warehouse, which has since been converted into a secure staging ground and is heavily shielded from satellite surveillance. Inside, Flagg introduces Deadshot to the other members required for the mission. A hot baddie known as Plastique, a mildly unattractive man called Captain Boomerang, and a well-respected geezer known as the Clock King. Deadshot immediately takes an interest in Plastique and starts to rizz her up, but Flagg tells him to keep his Johnson in his pants until after the mission. Flagg informs the group that they are now part of an experimental covert team known as Task Force X, working directly for the government in exchange for reduced sentences and eventual amnesty. After the introductions, the Clock King begins the mission briefing, revealing that the team's objective is to retrieve a high-security package stored in the vault. He also shares that although the big shot heroes are currently away, 3 major League members, Green Lantern, Captain Atom, and Martian Man, are still on board and are likely capable of using them each as floor scrubs. As a result, they are required to be as careful as possible, ensuring they don't get noticed or accidentally unalive somebody. Not like it's possible anyway. The operation begins with the task force ambushing 4 Watchtower technicians out in a field just before their scheduled teleportation. After subduing them, the team members disguise themselves in the technicians' uniforms and use their clearance badges to teleport aboard the Watchtower. Meanwhile, the Clock King remains at the warehouse, monitoring every step of the mission with his advanced gadgets. Upon arrival, Flagg uses a special device built into his glasses to trigger a computer malfunction, allowing them to bypass the identification security scan undetected. Once inside, the group splits up to complete their assigned tasks. Deadshot and Plastique head toward the lower levels to sabotage the generator room, while Flagg and Boomerang proceed toward the main vault. On their way, Deadshot and Plastique consider getting freaky with each other in the elevator, but they get intercepted by Green Lantern, who joins them shortly for a brief ride. When Flagg and Boomerang try to infiltrate the vault, they almost get discovered by Atom Smasher, so they realize there might be a couple of other troublesome heroes around. Soon after, Plastique plants a series of explosive charges around the Watchtower's main reactor, triggering a controlled blast that creates a simulated radiation loop. The alarms blare across the facility, prompting an immediate evacuation of all station technicians. Captain Atom quickly responds, descending to contain the reactor's core, and while he examines the damage, his sensors detect clear signs of sabotage. Realizing the leak was manufactured, he immediately contacts Martian Man, who begins scanning the station telepathically for intruders. At the same time, Flagg and Boomerang infiltrate the Watchtower's high-security vault under the cover of the chaos. Inside, they locate their objective, an ancient magical automaton known as the Annihilator, a sentient weapon forged by Hephaestus himself and sealed away by the League after a past encounter. Flagg activates the construct, issuing a direct command for it to follow, and the massive armored figure comes to life and obeys without hesitation. The Annihilator then clears a path for the intruders as they make their escape through the corridors. As they attempt to rendezvous with Deadshot and Plastique, their presence attracts the attention of some of the League's benchwarmers, Shining Knight, Vigilante, and Atom Smasher. The heroes put up a well-coordinated fight, but the Annihilator proves unstoppable as it overpowers all three of them in a matter of moments and clears the way forward. The group then moves toward the Watchtower's bridge, where Martian Man intercepts them. Using his intangibility, Martian Man easily subdues Deadshot and Boomerang and briefly gains the upper hand against Flag. However, the Annihilator intervenes, and, exploiting Martian Man's elasticity, grabs him and tears his body apart, temporarily neutralizing him and allowing the intruders to escape. The team races to the teleportation chamber, with Martian Man slowly reforming behind them. When he gets back in form, he changes the dynamics with the Annihilator and is about to annihilate it, but gets stopped by Plastique, who threatens to put one of her explosive discs in Atom Smasher's mouth. Martian Man then stops attacking, and the Annihilator gets into the teleportation as well. When Plastique tries to join the rest, Captain Atom suddenly appears and tackles her. In the struggle, the disc is knocked loose, so Deadshot uses it to their advantage as he fires a precise shot, detonating it midair and creating chaos across the room. In the confusion, Flag, Deadshot, and Boomerang manage to teleport away along with the Annihilator, while Plastique is left behind, severely wounded and unconscious. Recovering from the blast, Martian Man attempts to trace their teleport coordinates. However, the console sparks violently and explodes, having been rigged beforehand to self-destruct and erase all tracking data. Back on Earth, Colonel Flag delivers the Annihilator to Amanda Waller, who is accompanied by Tala, one of Cadmus's operatives. Waller expresses her satisfaction with the mission and praises Flag, remarking that his late father would be proud of his dedication. Deadshot, true to form, mocks the sentiment and tries to leave, but Flag punches him across the face for no particular reason. He then informs him that he will remain under Cadmus's authority for another 5 years before earning his freedom, unless he prefers to return to Belle Reve and face execution. Confused, Deadshot tries to find out if Flag himself is being blackmailed by Waller, but Flag coldly responds that he's only doing what's best for the country. Meanwhile, aboard the Watchtower, Martian Man uncovers that one of their own technicians, a man named Vance, had been leaking classified information to Cadmus, using an anti-telepathy device to mask his thoughts. Vance successfully transmitted intel that allowed Task Force X to execute their heist. Enraged, Martian Man contemplates erasing the man's memory to prevent further damage, but Green Lantern intervenes, telling him that it would accomplish nothing since the information has already been compromised. The revelation leaves both men deeply unsettled as they realize that there could be another enemy with them on the tower. At a secured Cadmus facility, the sorceress Tala examines the mystical Annihilator armor, still bearing traces of dark magic from its previous use. She is determined to unravel its secrets and harness its power for Cadmus, though her motives clearly lean toward personal ambition. The armor's previous owner, Felix Faust, remains trapped nearby with his disembodied spirit imprisoned within a mirror after his defeat at Wonder Woman's hands. As Tala continues her experiments, Faust's spirit begins to whisper to her through the glass. He manipulates her, making her say some spells he assures her will help with insight into the armor's magical essence. Despite her experience with deception, she ends up releasing Faust's spirit in the process. Faust then immediately traps her in the mirror while he infuses his spirit inside the Annihilator to reawaken its destructive power. Later on in the Watchtower, Flash tries to ease the growing tension between the Justice League baddies, Wonder Woman, and Hawkgirl. He sets up a small dinner and insists they both attend, refusing to take no for an answer. The two arrive reluctantly, sitting across from each other in silence while Flash tries to make conversation. His attempts at humor fall flat, as the girls don't seem interested in calling off the smokes. Frustrated, Flash tells them he's tired of the distance between teammates and just wants things to go back to normal. Then after a while, the girls decide to reconcile, although still clearly pissed at each other. However, the effect of the magical ripple across the mortal and divine realms terribly affects several mystical heroes, including Dr. Fate, Zatanna, and Jason Blood, as they are suddenly overcome with pain. Even the non-magical members of the League feel the weight of the event, though they cannot comprehend its scale. Meanwhile, far away on Themyscira, Wonder Woman also feels the imbalance reverberate through the heavens. When she returns to her room, she meets Hermes, the messenger god, who almost leaks his browser history by mistake. Hermes tells Wonder Woman that a breach between Tartarus, the underworld, and the mortal realm has occurred, upsetting the cosmic balance. Asking how it's supposed to be her concern, Hermes explains that a certain balance must exist between good and evil, and without it, the world cannot operate. He recalls that the other Amazon guards had tried to stop the threat, but it only ended up folded like Kalani's laundry. Being the star of the tribe, she's required to descend into Tartarus and set things right, for even the gods cannot intervene directly while the Annihilator's power runs unchecked. Realizing she cannot face such dark forces unprepared, Wonder Woman decides she needs a weapon capable of disrupting magic itself. She slips into Hawkgirl's room under the cover of night and reaches for the nth metal mace, knowing its power could turn the tide. Before she can take it, Hawkgirl walks in and catches her in the act, forcing Wonder Woman to explain everything. Upon hearing about Faust and the growing threat, Hawkgirl agrees to lend the mace, but only if she joins the mission. Wonder Woman accepts, though the tension between them remains. Since the Thanagarian invasion, their friendship has fractured. Wonder Woman still carries resentment, while Hawkgirl appears entirely unfazed. Their journey begins on Themyscira, where Wonder Woman must seek her mother's approval to enter Tartarus. Queen Hippolyta, still wounded by her daughter's past defiance, refuses at first, but when demonic forces start to erupt from the underworld, attacking the island and threatening the Amazons, she agrees. Realizing the danger, Hippolyta restores Wonder Woman's armor to its divine state and orders her to protect the balance of the realms. With the Queen's blessing, Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl proceed toward Tartarus. They are confronted by several demonic creatures along the way, but the moment the beings notice Hawkgirl's wings, they freeze in fear. Mistaking her for an angel, they retreat instantly, unwilling to provoke what they believe to be a messenger of the Creator. Continuing on their mission, they have difficulties locating Faust, so the girls randomly select one of the creatures and threaten it for directions. Although the creature tries to refuse, Wonder Woman uses her lasso of truth on it, so the creature snitches like that one particular rapper and leads them to the villain. Confronting him in a creepy library, the girls announce their intention to stop Faust, but he easily banishes them to the frozen outskirts of the underworld, leaving them trapped among the souls of the damned. There, they encounter Hades, once ruler of Tartarus, now bound in chains and weakened, while a bunch of hungry creatures torment him constantly. Hades explains that Faust's intrusion has thrown the realms out of alignment, and that the Annihilator, forged by the gods as a weapon of pure rage, can only be stopped if its power is returned to its rightful balance. Hades warns that Faust seeks not only to rule Tartarus, but to overthrow Olympus itself. Realizing that time is running out, Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl release Hades from his bindings. The three of them then make their way back to the library to confront the Annihilator. Upon arrival, the confrontation quickly escalates into a fierce battle that leaves the library in ruins. Despite their impeccable teamwork, the trio gets smoked so badly that even the cameraman feels secondhand embarrassment, and Faust doesn't even put much effort into the fight. However, during the clash, Shayera's mace lands a heavy strike against the Annihilator, leaving a visible dent in its armor. The impact reveals that the nth metal can actually harm the enchanted construct. Realizing this weakness, Faust panics and uses the Annihilator to unleash his full power on Shayera. The creature grabs her in its massive hands and begins to crush her. Acting quickly, Diana picks up the fallen mace and channels all her might into a single swing. Faust tries to defend himself against the swing, but the blow smashes through the armor, shattering the Annihilator into scattered fragments that crumble across the floor. As the dust settles, a faint shard of Faust's soul rises from the remains, drifting aimlessly through the air until Hades captures it. Holding it between his fingers, he remarks that he's going to do a lot of unspeakable things to the remains of the sorcerer. Before leaving, he addresses Diana as his child, prompting her to demand an explanation. Hades then reveals that he and Hippolyta both played a role in her creation from clay. Shayera immediately warns Diana not to believe him and urges her to use her lasso of truth to confirm it, but Diana refuses, saying she doesn't need the lasso and that she already knows who her true family is. When the battle is over, Diana and Shayera return to Themyscira, where the Amazons greet them and celebrate their victory over the dark forces. Despite divine law forbidding Diana's presence, Queen Hippolyta embraces her without hesitation and declares that she will face the gods herself if necessary. Diana and Shayera finally put aside their differences. Though the wounds between them haven't completely healed, they acknowledge each other's bravery and agree, whatever comes next, they can still fight side by side as teammates. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.